if you're not into like the how the sausage is made part of what I do, which is just the base fact that I write a song a day, chances are you're going to be turned off by some aspect of what I do this week. You can write a song about anything at all.
I guess that is true.
Oh, it's absolutely true.
Your content.
Yeah, such a horrible word.
You're almost doing it like for them. It seems like you're almost the definition of it.
Trying to reclaim that a little bit.
Yeah.
Where, okay, it's not going to be just part of the YouTube-ness of it. You do have to, on some deep level, be doing it just for yourself.
Well, the tree bears the fruit to feed itself.
Right.
This is the Cameron Adair podcast with me, Cameron Adair. This is episode 9. Today on the show is Jonathan Mann. Jonathan has written and published a song a day for nearly 3,000 days. He's performed and had his songs featured on CNN, on Anderson Cooper Live, in Apple keynotes, among other places. We met up at Jonathan's apartment in Jersey City. In this episode, we talk about music and Jonathan's unique approach to it. Jonathan asked me about my work, about what he's going to do for his 3,000th day, about CalArts, and about songwriting. Here's Jonathan.
See if I can get this right. I'm also really jet lagged and tired. I'm really glad to be here. It's good to get out of the seat.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I'm useless on no sleep, and if I don't get at least 7 hours, forget it. I'm completely useless, and I need a nap.
Yeah.
I'm very pro nap. Very pro nap.
Yeah.
I think that naps sort of have a bad name, but and I always do feel a little bit lazy when I take them, but I mean, like, I think that more people should nap, just in general, if they need it.
Yeah.
I think that it's criminal if an office doesn't have like a nap room. I think like every place should have a room that's specifically just for napping.
Yeah. It's almost like when you get more sleep, you're more in touch with. It's you've meditated.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I just did this. I was just talking about it in the Uber with my mom, but I just did the sensory deprivation tank thing.
Oh,
where you
go to
water.
A place? Yeah.
Yeah, did it last week for the first time.
Dang, how was it?
It was cool. I thought I was more gonna trip out.
Yeah, because you do that. I mean, people talk about that happening.
I thought I was going to hallucinate and like see angels, like a DMT trip, but
sure. It
was more just almost the opposite, just meditation really.
Did you fall asleep or
no? No, it'd be hard to, I think.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm all for the sleep and things along that line.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't need to be like spazzing out or not functioning properly.
Well, you're useless.
Why
at
would
that
you
point.
even?
Yeah, exactly.
So
there's a really wonderful movie called Altered States. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh yeah, with William Hurt.
William Hurt, and he goes on this sensory deprivation tank and devolves into an ape man. And
I don't remember that part, but okay.
That's what it's about. I mean, that's the basic. It's so good. It's such a good movie. It really holds up.
I remember in that movie, the tank is kind of like a space tank.
Yeah,
but now I don't know when the new ones came into more commonplace, but it's more just like a chamber that's laying on the ground. You know?
Right. Yeah, I think it's
not as crazy as that movie makes it out to be.
It was like a big submarine almost that he got into. And this is, I'm sure. Well, it's like a whole industry now. There's like a whole thing of you go to the tank and you chill out for.
Yeah. It was cool. I'm glad I tried it I
want to try it someday.
So what I'm thinking of is what you do versus what's classically seen as the role of an artist or as a musician. I'm jumping right into this. But technology companies are giant advertising companies, like you said, and you figured out a way to be able to fit into that system and like
the role of like selling out or making music for commerce versus art, because that's something I'm definitely interested in, fascinated by.
It more has to do with someone's idea of music might be make an album, a cohesive thing,
right?
Rather than dealing on sort of shorter wavelengths where it's just here and gone.
Yeah.
And all that is directly attached to technology.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that versus sensibility and creating something that has like a classic amount of value?
Sure. Yeah. The value that has been placed on music versus the value that is now placed on it.
Yeah.
I think about this stuff a lot. I mean, there's so many angles to come into this, to what you're asking about, I would say. And like, I think about the idea of an album as a cohesive thing. Let's start there. Interestingly, as Mike Errico, who writes for Q Point, which is like a Medium magazine on the internet, he's a musician, professor, and writer. He wrote a whole piece about how the album, in terms of sales, the album is no longer even viable or important.
Right.
And now it's all driven by singles. But if you look at Spotify, iTunes, RDO, what they count as a play, if we're talking about what's commercially viable, right? What Spotify counts as a play is the first 30 seconds of a song. So if you listen to 30 seconds of a song, then whoever made that song gets, whatever 0.007. Mm-hmm. If you listen to less than 30 seconds, they don't get it. So his whole thing was like, at what point are we going to see people just putting out 30 seconds songs?
Well, there was a band that, to fund their tour, they put out a silent album.
Wolfpack. Yeah, they're amazing. Have you listened to them? They're incredible. Yeah. They're one of my favorite bands. They're the most amazing musicians I've ever seen play live. Anyway, they're great. What sucks about those kinds of experiments, it turns out, is actually that you're not screwing over Spotify when you do that. You're screwing over every other artist on Spotify.
Right, because of the way that it works.
Because of the way that they divvy it up. But then I would say the album as a medium was really only had, 50, 60 years when it was a thing.
Less than that, I'd say.
And if you go back far enough, you get symphonies as being like a thing. You go back further and you get like, chamber orchestra and whatever. You have all that. You have the whole history of music. It's like this very narrow band where albums were even the dominant art form in music.
Right.
So I think that music, like on the one hand, that's what we were raised with. So I think we will always have a certain kind of nostalgia and a kind of longing for that as the thing. I know that I do.
Yeah.
But I also think that, it's our jobs as musicians in this evolving world to like figure out what the future of that looks like. And I think that that's just, there's no like answer to that. It's just like, the answers will reveal themselves as all of us are just sort of doing our things and making that work.
Right.
So, for me with Song a Day and having written, a new song every day for the last 7 years, like that's like my way of answering that question. What's next or whatever, what's like one way of doing it.
Well, also you can look at it in that album music or symphony music was just following the money in either case.
Right. That's very true.
Because that was the viable, sellable commodity thing. Yeah, it was a studio album in I would say, 2.5 decades of that, if that.
Right.
And you're just entirely plugged into doing it this other way.
Yeah. I mean, I've made the sort of commitment to it. And that's not to say that like I've put out albums and I try to make them do things, but it's hard. I don't know. I was going to ask you, what your experience was putting out your record. Like how did your record do both in terms of financially for you, and also how did it do? Did it build an audience for you? Did your album find an audience? I guess is the question that I had, because I've had a fucking hard as shit time with that. Like Song a Day is one thing, and then when I put out a collection of songs, it's really hard, I found, to find the audience for that.
Yeah, I think for me, the decision making up to the point of saying, okay, I'm going to spend this much money to make an album in this much time, was just following the stuff that I enjoy the most in music. Because it all started with the first video, and that gained a surprise. I mean, I wanted more, but I was expecting more, and we really tried to get more traction on the first one, but it really kind of kicked it off in a way that was like, okay, this is possible. What now? You know, there's a few options at that point, which is like tour, put out more singles with videos to get more attention.
Right.
But, you know, like build the catalog in some kind of way that I can look back on in 30 years and say, I'm happy with this. I can live with this. And so for me, it was like, people are like, oh, put out a mixtape. The fuck is a mixtape? Like,
I know. I actually don't understand what a mixtape is. No, like literally, I don't, because I don't understand it.
Right. So I was already working at, you know, one of the oldest and most historic recording studios in the Northern California, and so, you know, and I really liked conceptual art, and that's kind of where my head's at, and it finds a way into whatever I'm doing. So I wanted to make a concept album, and the whole thing was, that's the worst idea. Because who cares? Like, honestly, no one's paying attention to that. Like, making a cool YouTube video, spending whatever, $2,500, $5,000 to make a really cool music video, that makes sense. Like, people can latch on to that, and that's fun. I'll be happy with it. It'll never go away. But, you know, making an album is fucking dumb. And it was kind of a fuck you to everything. I mean, I made it in a really expensive way. And it's just like, fuck this. Like, I hate technology. And I mean, that's, you know, the reactionary place that I was at. So, you know, the whole thing was made, sequenced in a way to be put on vinyl. And that's what happened. And so, you know, no money was spent on marketing, and it wasn't released. I mean, I was on a plane to rehab when it literally, when it was released. So yeah, when I got back, we started on the vinyl and redid some of the artwork. Yeah. And that's what it is. I mean, what I'm going to do with all those boxes of vinyl, I don't know. But it's brought me, you know, it's been great. I mean, so I don't know if you even asked all of that.
No, I did. I was curious because I saw, I guess probably before you went to rehab, I think I saw sort of the lead up to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it, and, you know, I was into it. But I was also really curious. Because I'm curious when any of my friends put shit out, like, I'm like, okay, what's it going to take, you know, for this thing to find an audience, for it to sell, you know, 100 copies, 1,000 copies, 5,000, 10,000 copies. Like, what's it going to take for that to happen? And so I watch with very curious eyes anytime I see a friend put something out. Because I just don't know what the thing is, what the secret is. And I guess it probably isn't a secret. And I think a lot of it actually has to do with luck, is one thing that I've come to really believe about all of this, is that when you stack everything that you have all up in a big pile, you know, you stack your talent and the blood, sweat, and tears you put into the thing, and the concept, and your networking, and the connections you have, and the studio you recorded in. If you stack all of that stuff up, without the last little bit of luck,
right?
It's just basically, you know, it's just, you have a big pile of great things that add up to, you know, something that you're really proud of. Yeah. But unless you have that last little ingredient finding that audience, I think is really difficult.
Yeah.
And it could be as simple as like somebody with 1 million Twitter followers just happening upon your Bandcamp link and like tweeting it because they liked it or something.
Yeah.
Or like some far off galaxy somewhere just exploded and that set off a chain of events that somehow leads to it happening. You know, it's just like there's this like inexplicable quality, I think, to some of these things.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of something that I've thought about too. It's like what really matters, even if, say, whatever kind of thing you want to do, even if that was laid out in front of you and like, yeah, go ahead. Here's all the resources you need to get done what you want to get done. Like you want whatever, like $100,000 on marketing,
right?
Bingo,
easy. Let's do it.
Like even if you were in that mindset, you would still be faced with the same problem. Yeah. So it's like if it's something that you're proud of, then that's what's going to matter down the line.
Yeah.
Either way. So
yeah, it's true.
It's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah. No, it's true, but you do have to, on some deep level, be doing it just for yourself.
Well, the tree bears the fruit to feed itself.
Right. Were you funding the whole thing through your business? That
whole record was mixed. A lot of that studio time was paid with pounds of weed.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And trade time.
Right.
And
like trading weed for time.
No, trade time in the studio world, it just means you were, I guess, interning or hanging out or assisting for free. It means you were hanging out for free and doing stuff.
They were just like into what you were doing and willing to help.
Yeah. Ask the manager if you can sneak in at after hours, you know.
Right.
And a lot of it was cash and a lot of it was just the people I'd met. Yeah.
That's cool. I liked the cover. I liked the whole story of the cover, the coffin, the building of the coffin. I thought it was like you were saying, it's like nobody cares. But I thought it was really cool. I mean, I thought the cover looked cool.
Yeah.
Just on its own.
Yeah.
And then it was cool to be like, oh, here's this like little story about that.
Yeah.
So I thought branding wise, it was because that's something I have trouble with, is thinking through the branding and following through on the branding. So when I see people do that well, I always am like, there's like a good visual brand that you can just sort of follow through on.
Yeah, I mean the coffin as a concept. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there, but it's a concept album, start to finish.
Right. I have a friend who lives in Massachusetts, and his name is Ben Perrott, and he was the CEO and founder of the website supply.com. Supply with a V, SVPPLY, which he sold to eBay mistakenly. But he has this thing that you might be interested in, which is like making startups as art. So he's like he's in that startup world, but his whole thing is like, well, first what he did was he made an entire brand, top to bottom, from app design to website design to logo design, name. He made an entire brand that didn't have a product. And then he tried to sell this brand on its own. And he actually did it. He never...
Sounds like the entire tech industry.
Right? Yeah, I mean, he was just taking that model and making it totally literal, right?
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. Hessian, it was called Hessian if you search for it. But so now that sort of led into this idea, which I don't even know exactly what it looks like, but he's imagining selling a startup in a gallery as you would a piece of art. Like here's my startup.
Right.
Here's everything about it, and just doing that.
Yeah, I saw some of that. I didn't look into it, but it really interested me because Richard Prince did that Instagram thing.
Oh,
and
right,
then they're actually selling flash drives at Art Basel with code on them.
Right.
Which is just so bizarre.
It is.
I don't even follow it that closely because my world has been really insulated in San Francisco.
Right.
As far as how things immediately affect me.
Yeah.
But there's a lot there. And it's called Hessian.
Hessian was the name of the brand. It's definitely worth looking at. His name is Ben Perrott. I'll send it to you. I have this idea because I'm coming up on 3,000 songs. I'm a few days away from 2,500. So in another 500 days, which is nothing, I'm gonna be at 3,000. So I need to figure out like what I'm gonna do for 3,000. Like at 2,000, I put out a record and like made this really cool video to commemorate it. At 1,000, I did a Kickstarter and did an album that way. So for 3,000, I was trying to think of like what I wanted to do. And you can tell me if you think this is a good idea.
Please tell me.
I've gotten mixed reviews of this idea. One of the things, and it sort of goes back to this art idea, like things being just conceptual. One of the things that has always sort of upset me about Song a Day, or has been sort of annoying, is the sort of just ephemeral nature of it. It's very like the songs are here and then they're gone, and most of them I don't ever think about again, and they're just sand in an hourglass. They're just kind of floating away in the breeze. I had this idea to like try to make it more tangible, make Song a Day come into the real world. And so I had this idea of finding a way to manufacture small cubes, 2x2 cubes, that just has like a little hard drive, like a flash drive or something, and a little screen. And if I made 3,000 of these for 3,000, and each one housed just one Song a Day song. And then I imagined like the gallery show would just be like a whole wall of these cubes stacked 6 feet high, 45 feet long, or whatever it is. And you just walk in and you're confronted with 3,000 songs in space. Here's what 3,000 songs in the real world looks like.
Do they play audio?
This shows like I have no concept of like how this would do. I had this idea that you could put on headphones and tune it to each one to a different song.
I think that it's a day that deserves some kind of special treatment, and that sounds as good as any.
I asked my friend Bree, who's the co-founder of MakerBot, like how possible this was. He's like, yeah, no, that's not gonna happen.
I mean, if you got the money, you should just
it's true.
Like, that'd be cool. It'll always be there.
It's true. I mean, that's basically what he said. He's like, what's your budget? And I was like, well, I don't know. But he's like, it would be really expensive. For me, it's probably prohibitively expensive. I could try to do a Kickstarter. I don't know if I really want to do that.
So you're trying to figure out what you're going to do for the 3K?
For the 3K. That's one idea. I like the Song a Day as an object idea.
Yeah. What about a show?
Yeah, I don't know. That just feels
best of.
That just feels a show or another album just feels sort of, run of the mill. I feel like 3,000 needs something kind of crazy. It needs to have maybe the craziest thing is I just don't do anything to market. Maybe the craziest thing is just sort of let it come and go. 3,000 days.
I guess that's one option. But
I don't know. A show could work. But I'd love to play a show with all of my songs in these little cubes behind me.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Each one, just a little video. And then you could sell them. You know what I mean? Each one I would sell as an art object. And then I was thinking, if you get to the show early, like song number 1 is $1. Song number 2 is $2. Song number 3 is $4.
Oh, wow.
And so on. And so if you want to buy one, you got to get there early, or else by the time we get to 3,000. But I think if you do it with that math, probably 3,000 is something like.
Yeah, I don't know. If I knew this area better, I would totally try and think of a place where that would be a great place to do it.
I should reach out to galleries.
Yeah, it's weird when people ask me about my thing because I don't really think about it, and I don't really talk about it that much.
You don't.
And so I imagine that when I say something stupid that it'll help me figure out what I should say next time. So I kind of feel I don't really know if I'm that eloquently spoken on my own deal. Plus, it's always such an ongoing thing, and you're always thinking of the next thing. You know?
Yeah.
How many years is 2,500 days?
It'll be 7 years on January 1st.
Yeah.
So I'm coming up on 7 years. Yeah, 7 years.
Holy crap! And it started at Berkeley, right?
I was in Berkeley.
I remember.
Yep.
And
yeah, it's been. I was in Berkeley for 4 years of it.
I was listening last night to a podcast you were on, almost probably 8 months ago.
Oh.
It's funny how it's become a thing. It's it's just become your thing now.
Yeah.
And
very much so.
Well, obviously, you're like the Jewish Lil B.
Yeah.
You know who Lil B is?
No.
Oh, really?
Is he a rapper?
He's a rapper in Berkeley.
Oh.
And he's notoriously
prolific.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But just totally harnesses technology.
Right.
I think I just don't think that way. I'm always thinking on something that's more slower moving, and I love tradition and craft, and I can't keep up. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I long for that. Definitely, it's not my natural state. You know, my natural state is more what I do, but I'm working on some projects now that are very slow moving, that are more traditional, and it's very frustrating to me to move slowly through a project and just sort of let it build over time, because as soon as I have an idea, I basically just want to make it as quickly as possible and get it out into the world.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for me to especially work with other people where we have to we have to move slowly, and they move at a pace and I move at a pace. And if I'm trying to make something good versus just make something, that's a whole different process.
Mm-hmm.
And I've found that just by making enough things, you can make good things. My strategy of making more stuff is one way to make some good stuff. You also make a lot of crap, but you make some good stuff. But the whole other strategy, your strategy and most people's strategy, honestly, of going slowly and crafting is a strategy I have a lot of trouble with.
Yeah. I've always had a tendency not to act unless I'm sure about something. So
yeah, I'm the opposite.
So what I do is I become obsessed. If I wanted to say, I don't know, play blackjack, I would become obsessed with basic strategy.
Got it.
And it would be all consuming. It'd be the only thing I thought about.
Yeah.
And then I get really good at it.
Yeah.
You know, that's just, I think, where it comes from.
Right.
Really. And I think also for you, it's also kind of an acceptance thing. You're putting all this stuff out there, and you're like, oh, I'm putting this stuff out there, even the bad stuff, and it's okay. I think that's also part of it.
Yeah, it's absolutely part of it. It's totally part of it. And it's recognizing that whether or not you work that way, it's that's basically how everybody works, but most people just don't put out the stuff that doesn't work. If you're crafting, you're probably going through multiple iterations and variations on the thing that you're working on. Mm-hmm. If you're working on one song, that song probably goes through thousands of permutations, and each one that you do before you are finished with it, quote unquote finished, is something that you would never put out into the world because it just is what it is. But with Song a Day, basically, I'm putting out every permutation of everything. You know, I'm just putting out the 1.0 of every single thing. I will say that that has been Song a Day's biggest asset, but it's also been a huge difficulty with Song a Day. Because as I grow an audience and as I get attention, if a song hits, I'm not able to capitalize a lot of the times on the attention that I get because of my signal to noise ratio. Where if something hits and I get 1 million views, I'm not able to then focus that attention on the stuff that would make people stay around.
Wow. Okay.
Because what happens is that there's all this other stuff. My machine just keeps pumping things out. And if you're not into like the how the sausage is made part of what I do, which is just the base fact that I write a song a day, chances are you're going to be turned off by something that I sing about this week, or turned off by some aspect of what I do this week, because here I'm just shitting out a song in 5 seconds that unless you're like, oh, here he is doing a song a day, unless that's like what's cool about it for you, you're just gonna be like, what is this bullshit? Like, what, this isn't what I want to be watching.
Right.
So I'm actually changing. This year is gonna be the first time that I'm gonna make a significant change to the way that Song a Day is released to the public.
Mm-hmm. I've seen you try to a lot of different
platforms. Yeah, it's always been on YouTube. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start making all my videos unlisted.
Okay. Which
means that they're not accessible to anyone.
Is this a Camera to Dare podcast exclusive?
No, I've been talking about it.
Okay.
I've been talking about it. Unlisted, which means you can only see them on YouTube if you have the link.
Right.
And if you want to watch me every day, you're going to either A, have to sign up for my email list, and you'll get it in your email every day, or I'm going to have a website. I've owned the domain songaday.org since I started. I've just never done anything with it. My goal is to make the breadth of Song a Day manageable and actually fun for people to interact with. So like right now, if you try to interact with Song a Day, I think it's just kind of like, unless you're really committed, I think it's probably like a really frustrating experience. You just sort of don't know what you're going to get, and you can kind of just like click around in my YouTube, but it's not organized in any way. So one of the main ideas for this site is that on songaday.org, what you'll see is today's song, and underneath that, the first thing you're going to see is the song that I wrote on this day a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and so on. You're also going to be able to search for Song a Day just by number, and it'll bring up that song, and you just sort of like give yourself this sort of like random hit of Song a Day. Another thing is obviously search by word, phrase, idea. You just type that into the search box.
Right.
Anything that I have that fits that'll come up. And also it has an API that can connect to my master list of songs, and anyone can build their own way of interacting with Song a Day that they imagine.
So that's what some of your ideas moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that it exists on such a short-term basis.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it exists on the largest, basis possible, which is that you could be doing this, when you're 70.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. No,
I
exactly.
never really thought about that.
No, it's both.
It's just like both, yeah.
It's one project.
Yeah.
It's lots of little songs, but they're all part of one large project. But most of the time, it doesn't feel like one project to me, and that's frustrating.
Yeah.
So this is a way to try to get a handle. The maw. Yeah. This is a way for me to try to get a handle on that, and for other people to get a handle on. It's kind of the same thing as the physical Song a Day. It's just another way to try to like manifest the totality of Song a Day and help it to be more relatable and help people interact with it better. Because I think that's been the part that I've really failed at the most. So just do it every day, and I haven't made it easy for people to become my fan. Like if you want to become a Jonathan Mann fan, you kind of have to just be into the Song a Day idea. And the music, the actual music and the actual that part of it needs to just sort of be secondary almost.
Right.
And I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to make it a little bit easier.
The way it's fit in is that the commissions you've done and it getting picked up by basically technology companies, people that are proponents of that it makes perfect sense that they would do that.
Right. It fits with their sort of model of the world.
Yeah. Your content.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a horrible word.
But that's the thing, though, is that in a way, you're almost the definition of it.
Yeah. I suppose this new way of doing it is actually trying to reclaim that a little bit.
Right.
Know?
Yeah.
Where, okay, it's not going to be just part of the YouTube-ness of it. They're going to be on YouTube, but you're not going to be able to like search for them on YouTube. If you want to experience Song a Day, here's my spreadsheet. It's also, I'm going to have like a little,
I've seen that. I saw you linked it, I think, at one point.
Yeah. I'm going to have I think songaday.org is going to have a little Easter egg. An Easter egg that I'll publicize, but you click on it and it'll just take you to the spreadsheet. And you want to look at Song a Day?
Yeah.
Here's Song a Day. Here it is. You know, here's like the most pure way to like interact with it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I hope
but
so.
Yeah, I saw that spreadsheet. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
And the purple shirt, what is that? How many are there?
Oh, I only own shirts that are purple, but
only?
Yeah.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
So it's like an Albert Einstein thing kind of.
Yeah, well, it's a uniform, and at the very base part of it, it's like at least this way I don't have to ever think about what I'm wearing, which I like. But it's actually my friend Ronan. I liked to wear purple, and I was often wearing purple anyway. And he just pointed out, that's your visual identity in your videos. Like you should never be in your video and not wearing purple. And that way, anytime people see a guy in a purple shirt, they'll think like, oh, Song a Day, and they'll think Jonathan Mann.
Sure.
And people had told me for years that I needed, because my videos were so varied and I'm never in the same place, I needed like some kind of visual through line.
Yeah, a motif.
A motif that comes back to the branding thing I was saying.
Trope.
Like, yeah. And I'm just bad at this kind of branding thing, but he suggested that, and I feel like, oh, it's super easy.
Uh-huh.
And yeah.
What I was thinking, even before I stepped into this, is the way that I sort of come from it from the other side. But someone from that position might see the positives of it. You're surviving off of it and have a Patreon thing, Kickstarters you've done, Bandcamp. Like it's all out there doing what it needs to do. So that's a plus.
Yeah, it's still a struggle.
And you've been able to leverage it in a way that works.
I've leveraged a skill that I have, which is that I can write songs that contain a message. Most of the time when I'm doing it for companies, it's a branded message. It's a message that company wants to convey. Like I have the skill to like just knock that out. You give me a list of things you want a song about, and I can make it in like 20 minutes.
Right.
And another aspect of what I do is I go to conferences and like I'll watch the talks at the conference.
The XOXO thing, and you just say Catskills Conference.
Yeah. For a while, for about 2 years, and it's been a year and a half since I had a good run, but I was making most of my money from big conferences and conventions and company meetings. Like that's where most of my money was coming from.
Oh yeah, like Y Combinator.
Big things like that. Yeah, but it's gotten a little slower, and I'm trying to get that, because there's huge money in that. So, and I'm good at it.
See, I don't even know.
Oh, there is. Yeah,
they're loaded.
It's mostly big conventions and companies. There's literally tens of thousands of these kinds of conventions of things you would never. I mean, I've played at like a carpet company convention, and I've played at this thing called SPBT, the Society for Pharmaceutical and Biotech Engineers. I've played at, this pharmaceutical company like Regeneron, and it's great. And the thing about it is like I'm really good at that side of things. It's hard to get them to sort of trust me, because I think if I did like put more attention into my wardrobe and how I present myself, it'd probably be easier, because I think I cut kind of like a wacky guy image on the internet. But as soon as they do hire me, they're blown away, and it always goes super well. So, and that's like there's they spending money for them is nothing on that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
I'm trying to make that into something more steady and figuring that out.
Right.
In the meantime, I do songs for startups and individuals and whoever. That sort of has gotten me through. We're not like filthy rich or anything, but we're getting by.
Mm-hmm. Truman Show?
Yeah, Truman Show. So this idea of sort of living my life in front of an audience?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are people online. I think I'm pretty small change in that, both in terms of the size of my audience, but also in the sort of amount that I share. I think for someone who is an extrovert like me, I actually am sharing not that much.
Oh, yeah.
Oddly. Yeah. I think that there's whole swaths of my life that are not shared. But on the other hand, I believe in sharing. I'm happy to share both for myself, but also for other people, Let
me back it up and try to get back to my original idea, which was that the problem that exists in the democratization of art and what's been traditionally called art and traditionally had a certain sensibility over time has been devalued to the point where it's hard not to drink the technology Kool-Aid and still be able to join the oeuvre, is that the word?
Yes.
Of artists throughout time.
I think people do it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I think there are paths for artists that don't want to have anything to do with social media.
Yeah.
I think that it's just as hard as any other path. I don't think that it's any easier or harder, actually. Mm-hmm. I think there's definitely ways for artists who do not want to have anything to do with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and sharing every last little detail of themselves. I think there's a real market.
Well, for example, your idea isn't, I'm going to go on tour,
sure,
I'm going to be in a band.
Yeah.
I mean, although I know you've done that.
Yeah.
But that's not where you're going. It's somewhere completely new and completely based on technology.
Right. Yeah. I would also say, though, I think that there's and this is something coming back to what I was saying about one of the downsides of Song a Day, there's being so much stuff that I put out. There is such a place for musicians that only put out something every 2 years, that the number of songs that you can enjoy from a musician, you can count on two hands. That is totally a viable model.
Yeah.
Because there is totally something to be said for leaving people wanting more and only sharing a very little select snippet of stuff.
Yeah, in a lot of ways that was contingent upon, the fact that anybody couldn't take a picture or a video or record themselves, at any given time 1 million times.
Yeah.
It's sort of added to the polarization of everything because there's fewer, multi-million-dollar pop stars.
Right.
And there's just so much of everything else.
I can think of a ton of artists that I really love that use social media to a minimum and retain a severe amount of sort of anonymity and mystery about them. One of my favorite artists is this guy, Francis Starlight. And Francis and the Lights is like the name of his thing.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Oh God, and he's just like the best. And he's on Twitter and he's on Facebook or whatever, but he doesn't really use them that often.
Right.
He doesn't put out music hardly ever. He plays shows and they're kind of a big deal because it's like, oh, he's playing. Like, okay, you better get to see him.
Right.
And he uses that. That's sort of, and he is a very strong brand around his kind of like, Francis Starlight. That's clearly not his name. He's created this entire persona and he owns it.
Lawrence Rothman is one that comes to mind for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen heard his work, but it's done to a minimal extent.
Yeah. And that's not, I think there's totally, I mean, how sometimes you sort of like, you envy the thing that you don't have. I know that I have like my own thing going on, but I think there's part of me that envies that. There's part of me that like kind of likes that idea.
Yeah.
And
well, you want to elevate whatever you're doing in your own way.
Right.
And I think you're doing that. And what you do is a thing.
It is. But I also, I love Francis, and I'm like, oh, I want to be like as.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's why you do what you do too.
Yeah.
It's because you can see it in other people doing it.
Yeah,
how they do it.
How they do it. It's true.
When did you move out of Brooklyn? That wasn't that long ago, right?
Yeah, about a year ago. It'll be a year in January that my wife and I came and bought this condo. It's too expensive to buy in Brooklyn.
Oh,
Brooklyn is prohibitively.
Is it
very, very,
it's
very
really competitive?
Expensive. It's just crazy expensive. You can't like find anything for like less than $1 million. Basically, it's just like it's just ridiculous.
How much out of the loop are you? Will you work from here? Does it even matter?
Doesn't totally matter. I mean, it's hard. It's a little bit hard to get to Brooklyn. It's easy to get to Manhattan, but a little bit difficult to get to Brooklyn. So I don't see a lot of my friends as often as I did. But we have vastly more space here than we did in Brooklyn, and it's nice. It's a nice place to live.
I'm I'm just overwhelmed. I never get to travel that much anymore.
Oh.
And I'm going to try and make the rounds.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
Hit up Brooklyn. Got friends over there, I'm sure.
Yeah, some friends from Cal Arts.
Oh, cool.
And friends from different points of life.
Yeah. Do you talk to any Cal Arts people?
Yeah, we keep in touch. No one's really, not my current social circle, but yeah, just some of the close friends I had when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still keep in touch with.
Sweet.
Definitely. Yeah, it's great because it's just nice to have a network.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of people don't. That's not always, a given.
For sure.
Yeah. And you're from Vermont, though?
Yeah. Northern Vermont, originally.
It's funny you did Bennington and then Cal Arts.
Yeah.
You couldn't mix it up a little bit?
I to tell you the truth, I sort of regret Cal Arts because I feel like I did good work there, and I made the Mario opera there, which I'm still really proud of, but I should have just moved to New York. Like basically all my friends just moved to New York. Like that's what they did after Bennington.
Yeah. You didn't want to face the music.
Didn't want to face the music, as it were. And so, yeah, I think that I should have just not done grad school. I think that maybe someday I'll change my mind. Like maybe someday that MFA will like come in handy. I sort of doubt it, but like, I feel like I probably would have gotten started doing the internet thing sooner.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
Well, it's you don't know. Who knows?
I don't know.
It's a leverage point for, it's some people went on to, I mean, I can't say that I got the most use out of that degree, but just the experience, I don't know. Some people went on to grad school, went on to get PhDs.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? It's true. You never know. I think if I had one regret that I think about with regards to school.
It was super expensive?
It was super expensive, and I just feel like, honestly, it was less about, oh, this is actually a thing that I should do, and it really was more about, I don't want to face the music, so I'm just going to, like, hide in grad school.
I got it right.
Yeah, oh, no, you totally got it right.
Yeah.
It absolutely was that. So, like you said, you never know, and we'll never know. It's like, it could go down an alternate timeline. But I feel like because it came out of that place of just kind of hiding here in this liberal arts cocoon for a little bit longer, I should have just stood up and faced the music. And even if it just meant having a shitty job and like doing whatever, I should have just done that.
Right.
And obviously my life would be totally different. Who knows? Maybe I would never do song a day. Like you never know like how one thing leads to another. But I don't say that as a regret, as being like, I feel super bad about it or anything. But if I'm just being honest with myself, in terms of learning from one's mistakes, basically, it was definitely like a learning thing where it's like, okay.
Well, being an artist is hard.
Yeah,
I mean, what are you going to, even if it's a liberal arts degree, it's not like you're learning petroleum engineering. It's like, no matter where you are in history, it's the same fucking story.
It's true.
What do you But and then with a master's degree, a lot of times you can fall back on academia, and that becomes another thing.
Right.
It's like you could be a teacher if you wanted.
Yeah, presumably.
And just stay in that world if it doesn't make you it's entirely sick.
Yeah.
What's today's song about?
Today's song is about basically I'm working on this project and I need to make this song that I'm working on really good. So today's song is about not knowing how to make the song that I'm making for this other project good.
Oh. That's funny.
Yeah. Because it's a completely different process. Song a day is totally based around not caring how the song comes out, just sort of letting it come out. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But when the song actually needs to be good, like it has to be like a good song and it has to sort of really stand up, I don't know how to do that. I mean, the way that I'm doing it is I'm making a bunch of versions of it and I've made 3 or 4 so far.
Who's it for?
It's for a new project that I'm working on that I haven't announced yet.
Okay.
But it's sort of like a musical. And so the first song of the musical needs to sort of really hit and land.
Sure.
And really needs to like prove to people that it's something that they're going to want to keep listening to. So it's really important that the song is good.
Right.
And that it really stands up. So I've done like 3 or 4 versions of it so far, each with their own kind of merit, but nothing that I'm like, yeah, this is like the version yet. And so I think that's just going to be my MO is I'm just going to like keep versioning it until I hit on something that I'm like 100% happy with.
Yeah, it's a lot of work goes into it if you really want to make it really good.
Yeah. It's a totally different process. This is what my today's song is about. It's like, I think that I know so much about songwriting, but I kind of really only know about what I do.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing where there's entire vast swaths of knowledge that I don't have a handle on yet.
Yeah.
And one of them is this ability to refine and refine and refine until you have like a perfect shining diamond of a thing.
Yeah.
It feels like bashing my head up against the wall and just like, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. Ooh, that kind of works. Okay, let's follow that for a while. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? No, it's not working. you know?
Yeah.
That's how it
feels. A lot of it is like that. So, that's what it is.
And it's so slow, it's so slow.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of that, I would say that, when I was working on my record, it's like pushing an iceberg.
Yeah. Right.
Like at some point. I didn't want to ask you about process because I thought that would be boring.
It generally is, I think.
Just to explain that to people.
Yeah, it's sort of impossible too. I mean, the way I talk about it is like with Song a Day, every permutation that you could think of in terms of process, I've done it, probably.
Yeah.
I've started with chords, I've started with a melody, I've started with words, I've started with a track, I've started with, a word, I've started with a picture, I've started with a video. Like every single starting point has happened because like the perennial question, right, is like, do you write the words or the music first? Yes. Both. Always. Everything.
How much free time do you have? Because I feel like a lot of times whatever you have to get done is all that you get done. Mm-hmm. So like if you have a huge list, like you'll get through your huge list and it'll take the same amount of time as like having one thing to do.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, with Song a Day, I stretch and compress how much time I spend on it based on, exactly what you just said. Like if I have all day to spend on a song and I have a good idea, well, then I'll spend all day on the song. And if I have a bunch of other shit to do, I'll spend, 5-10 minutes on it.
Do you have an RSS feed of like all the blogs you check? Because I feel like you're totally up to date on every sort of
I try to be
piece of technology news or anything.
Yeah, I do. I mostly keep up to date on Twitter.
Oh, really?
But I do use an RSS reader. That's just sort of part of my day in general.
To get some ideas going.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the idea that you can write a song about anything at all.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I guess that is true.
Oh, it's absolutely true.
Yeah, one of the things I've struggled with is intention, because part of the balance in creating something is intention versus whatever's just happening.
Mm-hmm. Versus sort of accident. It's easy for me to take any subject and just turn it into a song, but if I want to like express some kind of profound feeling or idea, that's a hard thing to do. It takes a lot of work. Sometimes I find that I can express those things unintentionally, as in the sense that we were just talking about. Like sometimes like the most profound songs that I write that have like the most emotional impact on people come from not intending to do that. They just sort of come out.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, man. Yeah. My pleasure. Woohoo!
You've been listening to the Cameron Adair podcast, made by me, Cameron Adair. Thanks to Jonathan. You can find his work online at jonathanmann.net. That's 2 N's. This show, it's on iTunes, it's on Stitcher, it's in your speakers right now, and it's on the internet. Be sure to subscribe, rate, review on iTunes, and join me next time.